Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to jump right in with this True 24 from the Tipsy Magnolia. It used to be the Steel Magnolia, and I've had this cup forever, but I've been trying to use up some of the ones that I have that I don't use on the regular for orders and such. So I decided that this was the perfect design for that. So we sanded it just a little bit, and then I'm going right in on the stainless with my foil glue from Artistic Painting Studio. And what I did, because it's pretty thick, so sometimes it's not hard to spread, but it's just a little bit harder to spread. So I dip my paintbrush in a tiny bit of water, just not soak the paintbrush, but just enough that it gets a little bit damp, and then I dab it on a paper towel, and then I dip it into the foil glue, and this just helps it spread a little bit easier. After I had that all completely covered with the foil glue, I took my heat gun and heated it a little bit so that it was completely dry, which if you work with foil glue, when it's dry, it's actually tacky. So once it was clear on the tumbler and you could see all the stainless again, then I knew it was ready. And I am going in with Luster Dust again from Diamonds and Dust. This time we are going in with the champagne color. So just like last week or Wednesday's video, I used Luster Dust, but in that instance I painted the tumbler and then applied the Luster Dust while it was in the epoxy and then applied it on the tumbler. This time I'm using it more like in the sense of like a mica powder, but it's not, Luster Dust isn't quite like a mica powder. It's an extremely super fine glitter. So I'm using the tack it method. And a little bit goes a long way with this stuff. You saw I put a little bit on and it just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading. But also be prepared because it's so microfine that when you spread it on and rub it around, little flakes go all over the place. It was everywhere. It was way over on my laptop screen. It just floats into the air and stays there. But what I did is I just added a little bit onto the tumbler and then just continued to just rub it in until the entire tumbler was covered. And don't forget that bottom. Once that was all completely covered, the good thing about working with foil glue is you can go right into the next step because it's technically dry per se. So I gave it a really light coat of Rust-Oleum's clear glossy spray paint, and then I let that dry, and then I gave it a good coat of epoxy. And then we went right into this next step, and what I did was I cut this honeycomb pattern out of stencil vinyl. I always want to call it transfer tape, but out of stencil vinyl, and I just cut two like rectangles full of it. And when I want kind of a scattered method for this look, I just put my transfer tape down, rub it around, and then whatever it picks up, that's the pattern I use. Instead of trying to like pick out specific or place them all individually, this kind of makes it more random and it feels kind of naturally random, if that makes sense. So I just placed these all around the entire tumbler, and with no specific real game plan for this part. It was just, I wanted them to be random around the tumbler. And then I wasn't sure, I'm not putting glitter over this next part, but I wanted to make sure I would not lose where the little stencils are. So I just went in with my Sharpie and drew a little spot on there. Here I am just making sure that I like the amount of honeycomb spots that are on there. And also, when you're doing this, make sure that they all face in the same direction. I've done that before where I added some and then the next little batch I had accidentally turned them and they were not going in the same direction, so it looked kind of funny to me. But here I am just making sure that I have a good spot for where I want to put this decal. And then I took it outside and sprayed it with some flat white spray paint. My spray paint can was not working very well, so it isn't a super thick coat, which is good because I didn't want a really thick coat, but it kind of gave like a splotchy coverage, I guess you could say. I mean, it still gave full coverage, but it was kind of not as thick in some areas. And then I took some gold from Iron Lac spray paint, which is, I get it from Hobby Lobby. It's the best gold metallic spray paint that I have found. It's so vibrant. I love it. It has really good coverage. So then I just took a paper towel with some acetone on it, and all I'm going to do is wipe away the top and the bottom edge. And what I do is I kind of form the area that I want removed, and then I go back in with that same paper towel with a little bit more acetone on it, and I just kind of brush right on that edge so it's not such a harsh line, but it's kind of like a distressed faded in line, if that makes sense. After I'm happy with the top and the bottom rim, I did add 2 little distressed open spots on the base of the tumbler as well. So once that was complete, then we're going in once again with some foil glue, and we're just going to be adding random spots of the glue all over the tumbler, but keeping it to where the white portion of the paint is only, because we're going to be going in with some leopard print foil, not vinyl, foil, because I don't know if you could tell on that decal, but there was some leopard print on there, so we're going to bring out the leopard print. So I added just random spots of the foil glue all over the tumbler, dried it with my heat gun again, and then I just took this beautiful foil from Artistic Painting Studio, and once again, I can never remember the name specific for the ones that I use, but I only use foil from the Artistic Painting Studio, so that's where it came from. I will try to find which one this is specifically, but I just laid it down, and I'm not worried about being like perfect coverage. I really want the distressed, grungy look, because we all know that that's my favorite. You can see before I added this little spot, I had to like touch the tumbler to see where the sticky portions were, because sometimes I forget where I put it, and so I just want to make sure I get it covered with the foil. So I just went around the whole entire cup and added all of this beautiful foil and made it very nice and grungy, distressy. And then the next part is my absolute favorite. We're going to peel off all of those little honeycomb stencil vinyl spots to really reveal like a beautiful design with all of that luster dust showing through on that honeycomb pattern. After that, it got sealed with a coat of Rust-Oleum's clear glossy spray paint again, and then another coat of epoxy, because when you put on this clear decal, so the edges don't show, you really need it to be a completely smooth, glossy surface. So I just trimmed around the edge of the design. You don't have to do this, but I just find it's easier for me. I don't know. But I didn't show it here for some reason. I don't even know why I didn't give you a close-up, but I took it outside and I took a yellow iron lac spray paint and just gave it a light splatter all over the entire tumbler as well, because in this decal there's some little yellow splatter, so I really wanted to tie that in also from this decal to match the entire tumbler as well. So I gave it a splatter and then it was dry, and then I added the decal. Because it was just a little splatter, I didn't worry about adding another coat of epoxy before I applied the decal. This beautiful decal came from AB Designs Co., and I always get my decals white backed. You can get them just regular or with white ink on the back, and I always do the white ink. That way, no matter what element or design I'm putting it on, it shows much better on the top. So after that, then I kind of changed my mind here again, like usual. What's new for me, right? But I cut out this design. I created this quote with these fonts a long time ago. I made a wood sign like this that I still have to this day in my bathroom, but it says, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." And I originally was going to cut it out of textured gold vinyl and have the offset be in black, but I put the offset on, and then I started to put the gold vinyl on top of that, and I didn't like it. It didn't stand out as much as I wanted it to. I really loved the way the black stood out, and since it was such a thin offset, I just ended up leaving the offset as the actual decal. So you can see here, this is where I am applying the gold textured vinyl, and then here in a few minutes, I just rip it off because I'm just staring at it and I didn't like it. So I ended up just doing the Be Kind with the gold, and instead of making it like an offset, I made the black be more like a shadow. So I just kind of offset it to the side a little bit. So just those words stood out a little bit more, but the black was still very prominent in the design. I also wanted to mention that for the peekaboo honeycombs, a lot of times I notice that when there's peekaboo, there's an outline on it. I know I do it quite often as well, but for this one, I really didn't want the honeycomb pattern to be a standout item. I wanted it more of like an accent to the design. So I decided to not put any outlines on that portion of it. So it just kind of was more of like a background element that tied it all in together. So after that decal was added, or the wording, then I gave it 2 final coats of epoxy and it was all done. And see right there, you can really see the yellow splatter really well in that picture. But it was all done and I absolutely love this one. I've always loved that saying. That's why I've had that sign hanging in my bathroom for years now. But as usual, I will leave all of the information where to find me and the products I use down in the description box. I would love for you to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to my channel. And thank y'all again so much for all of the love and support, and I will see you next week.